Hello everyone, this is Captain Courageous, and I'm back with another exciting RPG retro review. If this is your first time visiting my channel, welcome. If you're a returning subscriber, welcome back, and thank you for your support. This is my channel where I take a look back at old school modules and games, offer insights and trivia, and try to evaluate them for their use in a modern role-playing campaign. Today, we're going to take a look back at one of the most played and iconic modules in D&D history, the Keep on the Borderlands. Just a warning, some minor spoilers are ahead, and there's a lot to cover, so let's get things started, shall we? Written by legendary D&D co-creator Gary Gygax as an introductory module for low-level characters and novice DMs, it was first printed in 1979, and takes characters from the first to third level of play. This module was added to later printings of the Holmes basic set, but was included from the beginning in the print run of the popular Moldvay version of the D&D basic set, and as such has been played and introduced more players to the hobby than any other module before or since. It is generally fondly remembered, especially in gamer nostalgic-filled conversations about the early days of D&D, and ranks number 7 in Dungeon Magazine's 30 greatest modules of all time. This was my own personal first D&D adventure, and it was the gaming stories about what was happening therein as told by my good friend OSR Barron as we walked to school that piqued my interest to play the D&D game in the first place. And it wasn't too long before I was sitting at the dining table over his house, looking at the funny dice, creating my first D&D character, while the other gathered players regaled me with stories of the monsters they had already faced in the Caves of Chaos and the treasures they had found therein. It was magical. The module itself is a mini sandbox with the area around the eponymous keep fully open to exploration. The Caves of Chaos is quickly established as the obvious destination and focus of the module, and the players are encouraged to ask questions about the caves while within the keep. The DM is provided with a table of random rumors, some of them true, some of them not, or only partially true, and the DM is encouraged to make up rumors of their own. The keep is presented as a bastion of law set in a primal, untamed wilderness of chaos, a place ripe as the starting point for a group of would-be adventurers and the epitome of what D&D is and the very definition of Gygaxian. The Keep on the Borderlands was written by Gygax at the end of what would become his period of greatest adventure productivity for TSR from 1977 to 1979, just after creating T1, The Village of Hamlet. Given this, one cannot deny the similarities between The Village of Hamlet and Keep on the Borderlands in both structure and tone. Both provide the player characters with a base of operations, and both offer the players a place to adventure within a short distance of a safe haven, thus establishing a certain template for low-level D&D play that would become an enduring fixture of adventure design for the game going forward. That of a civilized place whereby characters could hold up, plan, and run back to in between excursions to a monster-filled, treasure-laden labyrinth. There is also no doubt that Village of Hamlet is superior in regards to NPC development and creating a base of operations for the PCs. However, in comparison to the Caves of Chaos, its adventure locale, the Moat House, is quite underwhelming. The Village of Hamlet is set in Gygax's World of Greyhawk for the advanced D&D game, and describes therein some conflict and tension between the older religion of the Druids and the newer worship of St. Cuthbert. The NPCs are fully described, perhaps more than is necessary, but one definitely gets a picture of what life is like within the village. The adventure destination in this module is the abandoned moat house, 2 miles away from the village. All of this, of course, a prelude to a more grand, epic adventure. A sequel, however, was never completed by Gygax, but by Frank Mentzer 5 years later, with the first ever super module, Temple of Elemental Evil. Conversely, Keep on the Borderlands makes hardly any effort at all to describe the NPCs within its fortified walls, as they are given no name, only going by their professional titles, such as the Bailiff or the Jewel Merchant. There is no motivation or reason for these NPCs to be at the Keep, other than to offer assistance to the PCs. There is also little cohesiveness between the Keep and the Caves of Chaos, or any of the adventures in the wilderness around the Keep proper. It should be noted that Village of Hamlet is a low-level adventure written for the advanced Dungeons & Dragons game, while Keep on the Borderlands is a teaching module written for the basic Dungeons & Dragons game. Keep is intended to be run by the novice, and as such, many details are left out purposefully to refrain from overwhelming the novice DM with a deluge of information. Throughout the module, the DM is given advice on how to run encounters, present NPCs, and generally run the game. Advice is given on playing the monsters intelligently, and how they will react to incursions within their respective lairs. So, while both modules were written and released around the same time, and share a very similar structure and tone, the purpose of each is quite different. Now, I, for one, find some affinity for the bare-bones nature of the Keep, as the naming and motivations of the NPCs are left entirely to me, the DM, to decide, and I can organically create such information on the fly as needed for the game and the group of players in front of me. This has the added benefit that everyone's Keep is going to be subtly different and unique from another DM's campaign. The Keep itself is well described, however, and was firmly placed within the known world of Mystara and the kingdom of Karamakos in the Altan Steppe Mountains along the border to Dorokin. There are several locations around the Keep that the characters can explore, such as the Mound of the Lizardmen, a spider's lair, a bandit raider's camp, and the infamous, if not amusing, lair of the Mad Hermit. But the prime location of adventure for the module is the Caves of Chaos, located a mere 2 miles from the Keep itself within a 100-foot deep ravine surrounded by thick, overgrown vegetation. The characters arrive at the foot of the ravine, which is dotted with a variety of cave entrances. Some caves are along the floor of the ravine, but many others are located at higher elevations around the canyon. A total of 11 ominous dark-mouthed entrances greet the characters upon arrival, and each cave home to a literal who's who of humanoids of the D&D world: kobolds, goblins, orcs, bugbears, gnolls, and more all set their lairs within these caverns. And while the module goes into some detail on how the various tribes relate with one another, in retrospect, the idea of so many humanoids living in such close proximity makes little sense. As the players arrive at the bottom of the ravine, the danger presented by the sandbox nature of the cave system is not readily apparent. The caves eschew traditional dungeon design, whereby the encounters become progressively more difficult as the party ventures to deeper and lower levels. Conversely, the Caves of Chaos become progressively more challenging as one explores at higher elevations, with the lower cave A on the map being the easiest and the highest cave in the canyon, Cave K, on the map being the most challenging. Though, upon initial arrival, there is no indication to the players that this traditional safety net is not in play, and all entrances are presented to them simultaneously for exploration. Certainly, over the years, a group of neophyte characters has had the unfortunate experience of blundering into the lair of the rather grumpy owlbear and taught a bloody lesson or two about the need for caution. All of this culminates with Cave K as the titular grand finale of the adventure, the Shrine of Evil Chaos, a horrid temple filled with acolytes and high-level priests dedicated to some horrid deity, and the undead they have created. Gygax gives extensive details for the rooms of this final cave, and it's a tough adventure, surely taking a session or two to complete in its own right. All in all, the Keep on the Borderlands offers hours and hours of fun that will surely last for many game sessions and bring the characters to the third level of play or higher, while also teaching novice DMs and players the ins and outs of the D&D game. Though it's quite likely that several player characters will fall to the myriad of challenges faced within. There are some devious traps here, many of them quite deadly, if not downright humorous, that makes this module one of the best ever released and demonstrates just how brilliant Gygax was when it came to module design. To present this module to an experienced group of players, or to update it for a more modern campaign, some prep work by the DM really needs to be done here. A crafty DM will not only need to name the NPCs within the keep, perhaps making some notes as to why they are there, but during play attempt to create an atmosphere of community within the keep, with an eye towards developing some dramatic conflict where appropriate, and also connect it to the strange goings-on at the Caves of Chaos, which is a mere 2 miles away. The DM should most definitely develop out the Shrine of Evil Chaos a little bit more. Its motivations and what life is like on a daily basis for the inhabitants of the caves, and what the duties and rituals of the priesthood are, needs to be examined. The keep itself is a well-established community, and the problem with raiders is a fairly new development, as is this massive habitation of the Caves of Chaos. I would connect all of this to the recent occupation and creation of the Shrine of Evil Chaos and the temple within. The humanoids are gathered there under the direction of the priests themselves, as a means of extending control over the surrounding area. Certainly, agents from the evil shrine have infiltrated the ranks of those within the keep, perhaps posing as merchants, or even enlisting in the militia. In my own campaign, I made the shrine dedicated to the fallen snake god Set, and those within part of a contingent of a much larger cult, originating from the Broken Lands, that was expanding all over the known world. Their goal? To find an ancient artifact, the Eye of Set, in the hopes of reviving their now fallen god, who lies encased in obsidian in the volcanic depths of an area of the Hollow World. The small contingent at the caves only one of many such expeditions, searching for clues as to the artifact's location. The raids around the keep, not just from random upstart bandits, but merely disguised as such, so that the shrine can fund further exploration efforts. So while the ecology of the Caves of Chaos initially makes little sense with so many humanoid tribes crammed into such a relatively small area, if they are part of a larger plot, the caves make an excellent starting point for a longer-lasting campaign. The cover art for the module was done by Jim Rosliff and marks one of TSR's first color covers, over the traditional monochrome covers, with the interior artwork being illustrated by venerable D&D artist Earl Otis. Given that the Keep on the Borderlands is one of the most widely distributed adventure modules ever printed, owning a copy is a rather simple affair, as purchasing one on eBay or Amazon in good condition will only set you back a mere $7 or so. The Caves of Chaos was reprinted in a super module B1-9 in Search of the Unknown in 1985, but minus the keep itself. Furthermore, Wizards of the Coast produced a sequel in 1999, Return to the Keep on the Borderlands, which details events that take place 20 years after the events of the original module. However, the location of the keep is retconned and placed in the world of Greyhawk, even though many details, such as deities and personalities, still reflected the original Mystara setting. In addition, more recently, the Keep on the Borderlands made a revised appearance as part of the playtest cycle for D&D Next. There is a certain charm about this module, especially to the young, uninitiated novice to the game. One of its greatest strengths is the sandbox within a sandbox construction. From the keep itself to the surrounding wilderness and the caves themselves, the players are pretty much free to wander and explore as they will, truly opening up a world of fantasy adventure to the imagination. In the back of the module, there's a glossary of terms to explain to the uninitiated novice what an elixir is, what a cistern is, a fen, a flagon, a portcullis, and more. I have to smile to myself when I consider that there was a time when my 14-year-old self actually needed that glossary, as I was unfamiliar with many of these archaic terms. Over the years, TSR and Wizards of the Coast have introduced many introductory modules and adventures for Dungeons & Dragons, some of them quite good. including its latest entry for the 5th edition of the game, The Lost Mines of Phandelver. But few of them have left such an indelible impression on a generation of gamers as Keep on the Borderlands. And, with a little modification, there's no reason why it couldn't continue to do so for generations to come. Well, that about wraps up another RPG Retro Review. I hope you enjoyed watching it as much as I enjoyed revisiting this classic D&D module. December 18th marks the release date of Star Wars The Force Awakens, the much-anticipated 7th entry in the Star Wars franchise. As such, I thought it might be a lot of fun to take another brief break from D&D reviews and a retrospective look back at the 1987 release of Star Wars The Role-Playing Game from West End Games. A seminal licensed product that made its own indelible impression on a generation of gamers and contributed substantially to the Star Wars expanded universe. I'm working very hard on a weekly video release schedule, with new videos going up on Mondays. So if all goes well, you should see the Star Wars Retro Review in the second week of December. After that, just in time for Christmas, the final part of my 4-part series on how to play Dungeons & Dragons, a play demonstration. Thank you all so much for watching. Please, if you enjoyed this video, share it, comment below, and if you haven't already, subscribe for more content like this. And as always, my friends, may your D20 roll true and game on.